balance the two? Of like, I want to play piano, but like, also want to compose this. Like, how do you
Yes.
balance that in your career and also in your creative?
Well, actually, I designed my career to improve myself in this because I find it a little bit unique. Not so many people are either oriented to the performing what is written in the score or just composers and not too much developing technique. But for me, it's actually the way of thinking because when I want to make unique performance, then a performer as itself has to have some vision how he or she would like that this piece sound. And sometimes the spirit of the piece for me requires some, for example, changing the score. Or I can give another example. For example, if I play Bach and I find some special feelings in Bach that I identify my feelings from my life, that sometimes it comes that, yes, it's my own personal experience. I was sad like this music of Bach is sad, or I was happy like Brandenburg Third Concerto, and then actually I found myself trying to express feelings through the music. So it was also logical to try when I have special feelings to just express this through the composing. So for me, it's something that goes together. It's just I cannot separate it from practicing. Is the same like trying to make it like I compose it. So it's logical that sometimes I wish to compose something as well.
Do you compose mainly with your instrument?
Sometimes with my instrument, mainly with like piano.
Mhm.
It's like you see all the notes, so it's easier to pick out which harmonies you want.
I always find it fascinating for composers. Do you automatically think for a theme or do you think for a instrument?
Honestly, the first thing I think is the complete idea, what I and the audience will feel after the composition. So this kind of idea is forming the melody and as well the environment around the melody, which means like instrumentation, sound, rhythms, and all other things.
You know, I just want to say for the students, one of the best things you can do with somebody like Julia is look back at history of the performer and the composer. The idea that a performer was not a composer is extremely new.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, essentially, there was no one in the 19th century who was not a composer.
Yeah.
Jascha Heifetz, who died in 1987, wrote his own cadenzas. David Oistrakh did as well. Today, Joshua Bell does. Many performers are also composers. The main difference is like if you took a look at somebody like Prokofiev or Rachmaninoff, well, they were pianists first, but they were also very serious composers, and now we know them primarily as composers, but they were superb performers. But so is Beethoven, so is Paganini, so is James Galway. So the bottom line is the idea of the separation of the performer and the composer is a relatively new one, and frankly, unfortunately in my case, I can't compose. So it's not a good thing. So you guys go out there and write stuff, even if you're very serious about playing your instrument, because it'll actually make your instrument playing a lot better.
I can tell that I'm a pianist, so it's like one of the famous pianist, composer, teacher, and performer, Ferruccio Busoni. He was actually advising the students to, if they want to understand some composer, for example, Liszt, they should be writing something in the style of Liszt, from just something his own, and then actually it will open all other doors, because if you just perform, then you just do what is within the score. But if you try to create something in the style of that, then you are really coming deeply into the understanding that style. Unfortunately, not many students do this, but this was his advice to his students.
Yeah,
Even if it's something really small. It's have to be some symphony or something. It can be just a couple bars, but it makes you understand the style.
Did you have a question? Anybody? No.
But I just wanted to say that, you know, this is such a great point because in the time of Mozart, the greatest compliment you could give another composer is to take his melody and write variations on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as my Juilliard teacher used to say, now we just sue him. So
Yeah, exactly.
oh, that's my
Yeah.
stuff. You can't touch that. But for example, if Mozart, which he did, you know, wrote a melody that was written by Salieri. Salieri would go run to his house. He'd do me such great honor to use some of my little music to write this great opera or something. So now we just sue him.
Well, also Mozart was writing. Penna, a quill? How do you call
Yeah.
a quill and ink? All the scores over and over as a kid. Just imagine the
That's like
physicality.
Bach knew the music of Vivaldi
Yeah.
simply from scores because he never actually went to
Exactly. If you go to Italy. Fascinating. Anybody else? Questions?
Why don't we have our next performer?